You are Locked On Falcons POSTCAST, part of Locked On Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, everyone, to the Locked On Falcons POSTCAST here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons, joined by Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Unfortunately, Tenitra Batiste has her other Atlanta sports duties right now, and so she could not join us for this Locked On Falcons postcast, which is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Is going to help you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And we thank each and every one of you guys that makes this illustrious postcast your first listen. Make sure you become an everydayer and subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So, Jarvis, this postcast is fun and festive postcast. I'm disappointed Tenitra will not be joining us for this one because it's been a minute since we've been able to do one. That the Falcons came away with the W, a much needed W, to take back control of the NFC South. We're going to talk, of course, about Desmond Ritter's performance in his first start since his benching coming out of the bye further on today's episode. But we got to start with what felt like sort of the key for the Falcons, which was their run game as well as the defense. And Jarvis, that gives you such a golden opportunity to talk about your boy, the guy that when he plays great, you have given him credit. And when he has not played great, you have been the first to take shots at Jessie, a.k.a. Jordan, because he's the GOAT. Bates, he looked a lot like Jordan in this game with a pick six, a team leading 12 tackles, forced a fumble. I'll just give you the floor, Jarvis, to talk about your boy.
Yeah, man. Like that's what I'm talking about, man. Like when you think about like spending that type of money, I hate to be in the man pockets, but man, like when he actually comes through, man, he comes through. Like to be able to wait, because the way the game started, obviously it was weird. Like just like, all right, here we go. Tip microphone not working in the pregame as he's walking out with the players. And I'm like, yep, this is probably how it's going to go for the rest of the day. And then when you saw how that first drive turned out, you was like, all right, man, here we go. But for him to come up big like he did and take that bad boy all the way to the house, you have to, like I said, you have to give credit where credit's due because that's what you paid him for. And that's what I want to see, man, because I love seeing playmakers, man, especially when you need your guys to come up big for you. And I think that for them to have the Saints go 0 for 5 in the red zone, that's elite, man. That's elite defense. Now, granted, between the 20s, it was a little shaky. But when it comes nut cutting time and it's time the doggone start locking down, that's what this defense did each and every time they got down in the red zone. And kudos to Ryan Nielsen as well, because he made that adjustment that I felt it was necessary. You saw DeMarco Hellams getting a little bit more run in that first half. Jeff Okudah was struggling. Hey, all right, Trey Flowers, you up. And I love that, man. I love that. You hold these players accountable, and they weren't done for the game. He brought it back in later on as well. So I love the dynamic that's going on the defensive side of the football. And the way they played today, they definitely deserve a kudos to start this bad boy off.
Yeah, you're right, Jarvis. The Saints were moving the ball at will between the 20s. It was really, other than the first drive, I think they got a 3-and-out, and pretty much the rest of the game, the Saints was just like, well, we're getting, it's just a race to get to the red zone. Like, can we get to the red zone in 3 plays, or can we get to the red zone in 6 plays? That was basically the rest of the game. And Jessie Bates, basically with his 2 takeaways, the pick six and the forced fumble, felt like he took 14 points away from the Saints and then added 7 to the Falcons. And so it goes back to the conversation we had after that week 1 game, right? I don't know if the Falcons win this game without Jessie Bates doing the things that he did in this game. I don't know.
Big argument to be made. That was the difference. Big argument to be made. Yeah.
And, I don't know if the Falcons are able to sustain the offense that they need to have without their run game. We saw this team rush for over 200 yards for the second time this year, 228 rushing yards, and you got contributions from everybody. You had the 3-headed monster that we were glorifying going into the season that we just really haven't seen. We've seen it when it's been two guys, but we haven't seen all three of these guys. Bijan Robinson, 91 yards, Tyler Allgeier, 64 yards, Cordarrelle Patterson, 43 yards. He even got contributions from Desmond Ritter on the ground with his legs, getting 30 yards to add up for that 200 plus. And you saw it at the end of the game when the Falcons needed to eat clock with 4 minutes to go or 6 minutes to go, whatever it was, and just basically just march down the field. And they did it. We saw it against the Vikings. And fortunately, unlike then, because of, in part due to Jessie Bates making the plays that he did and some earlier scores, we weren't in a situation where the Saints had a possibility to be able to drive down the field and score to win the game. And the Falcons essentially on that drive and basically leaned on Tyler Allgeier as their sort of closer, who was pretty quiet for the most part in this game up until that point, because it was mostly Bijan, it was mostly CP up until that point. But you saw this run game, and we've been talking about this the last month, where it's like this run game is slowly starting to build back up to being that sort of identity that this team was built off of, and I think they really showed it in this game.
Yeah, I think that credit, you got to give Arthur Smith some credit. I know people don't want to do that, like so soon. Like, oh, it's too soon, Jarvis. Nah, man, like give a man credit what credit's due. Like Bijan starting the party, and then you sprinkle in some Cordarrelle Patterson. Oh, he catching a little fire, he catching a little heat. Let me give him the rock. Like the jet sweep to Cordarrelle Patterson. I thought that was an excellent play call, and the way CP finished that bad boy, those are the type of plays that it almost kind of like makes you think that the head coach or play caller is a former offensive lineman, because the way those guys will just start to lean on the Saints players, man, you start seeing guys getting up slow, and you start seeing that offensive line getting up, patting the running back on his butt after plays, and you see Tyler Allgeier out here doing a bow and arrow and everything, man. Like those are the type of things that you need to see from your offense, because that stuff gets everybody going. Like, we know this team can be a little suspect when it comes to pass protection, right? But when you start getting that momentum running the football and those guys start leaning forward, it makes everything else easier. It opens the offense up. You see the linebackers for the Saints were biting up on play action. Why were they biting up on play action? Because they had so much success running the football. Like, and you see how the Saints, they were really keying in on Desmond Ritter on that RPO. You saw a defensive lineman right there for the most part, for the most of the game. With other teams, that wasn't necessarily the case. So when you got that type of momentum going with this run game, it just opens everything. It makes things a lot easier for Ritter when it comes to when they do finally drop back and throw the football. And you get to a point where, all your guys are involved, man. It says something when you get all your guys involved, because, you had the tweet with CP about a couple weeks ago now. Hey, man, I still got it. I still got some juice, coach. Like, give it to me. Like, I don't need to get it 20 times a game or 15, 20 times a game like he did when he first got here. But, like, hey, man, the man deserves to get the rock at some point. So, it's really cool to see, like, the offensive line opening up spaces for all the backs, right? Because, every guy has a different style, right? So for them to be able to open up space for each running back, I feel like the offensive line was on one today, too.
Yeah, definitely. We saw CP kind of last year. If you go back to that season opening game when the Falcons were able to play a very similar style of game like this and get a lead, and of course they blew it in that game. Fortunately, history did not repeat itself this time. It was really CP that was sort of the thing that was kind of the MVP of that performance on offense, and his sort of blend of both speed and power really gave that Saints defense problems then, and then this Saints defense even more problems today. So you also got Bijan, there were some issues with Bijan in the passing game, but he made it count in the end, right? Yeah. He had the big catch that was that touchdown pass on a nice throw from Desmond Ritter, and that's a perfect sort of segue to talk a little bit more in depth about Desmond Ritter, who, you look at the stat sheet, you're probably not going to be that impressed with it, but I do think despite a couple of mistakes that he made in this game, he had a solid performance that you wanted to see and a resilient performance. And we will get into that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons postcast. And first, guys, let's talk about LinkedIn jobs, right? They're going to help you find the right people that are going to help you reach your goals in 2023. We know that the Falcons are a struggle to reach their goals in 2023, but they took a big step today, right? Because they seem like they found that right blend on defense and in the running game and maybe at the quarterback position. And LinkedIn Jobs is going to make it so easy for you guys to find the right people, right? It's going to make you find it for faster and for free. They're going to give you simple tools like screening questions to make it easy for you to focus on the candidates that have the right skills, the right experiences. They're going to quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn number one in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And guys, I'd also like to tell you that today's episode of this Locked On Falcons postcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. And especially this time of year, stress, sadness, anxiety can get to us. And therapy can be that sort of bright spot that can eliminate some of that stress and some of that change and give you something to look forward to, something that's going to make you feel grounded, something that's going to give you the tools that you can manage everything that's going on in your life. Therapy has been very beneficial to me. BetterHelp has been very beneficial to me. One of those tools that they've helped me with is you can only control what you can control. And oftentimes I can't control whether or not the Falcons are going to play well on Sunday. And so it takes a lot of stress off of my plate, and BetterHelp can help take stress off of your plate. I like BetterHelp because it's much more affordable than traditional offline therapy. And it's also designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And to get started, you just fill out a brief questionnaire. They'll get you a match with a licensed therapist. And then the great thing about BetterHelp is if you and that therapist aren't quite the right fit, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp by visiting betterhelp.com/lockedon today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. So Jarvis, let's talk a little bit more about Desmond Ritter and his performance today. But I do want to plug that, Locked On is an innovator and an icon because they've started off the first 24/7 streaming channel on Locked On Sports Today, where you guys can get all your insights into, all the sports, all the leagues across the network. So search for Locked On Sports Today, their 24/7 YouTube streaming channel. So it's not particularly innovative or iconic with the Falcons quarterback play because it was a very up and down day for Desmond Ritter. But I felt like other than he threw 2 picks in this game, he was 13 for 21, 168 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That one touchdown was that sort of just like it wasn't a no look pass, Jarvis, but it was just kind of like flip it up to Bijan, hit him perfectly in stride for that touchdown. You had 2 interceptions in this game. The first one was a pass to Bijan, and it looked like that was more on Bijan. I'm curious to get your thought on that, Jarvis. It looked like it was more on Bijan, not necessarily running the route to where Desmond Ritter. So Desmond Ritter put it out in front of him, went right to Tyrann Mathieu. The second interception, I think, was 100% on Desmond Ritter. Absolutely. If he's trying to throw it back shoulder to Van Jefferson, he didn't throw it back shoulder. And then you question whether he should be throwing it back shoulder to Van Jefferson because he didn't necessarily have the leverage. And this has been an issue with Desmond Ritter. So certainly some knocks on Desmond Ritter's performance today, but it felt like a better version of Desmond Ritter. Is that fair to say in terms of what we've seen from Desmond Ritter, especially those last couple of games? Just felt a little bit better in terms of just managing the game. And you could, again, it always seems like there's 1 or 2 plays that he wants back, but I'm curious what your thoughts on Desmond Ritter today.
I thought he looked better, specifically when it comes to holding on to the football, because we know that was a big problem, right? Now we know that, hey, offensive line deserves as much credit for those sacks his first time around as a starter, but there were some that I could probably give credit to him because he was just simply holding on to the football a little bit too long. So you didn't see that today. You saw, hey, if he felt pressure, boom, he was trying to figure out a way how he could get out. And it was one play, I was like, I don't even know how he got out of it. It was one because the pocket had collapsed on him, and he just kind of ducked up out that bad boy. Next thing you know, he taking off for 7 to 8 yards and getting the first down. So I think that just the development and making sure that you are getting to a point where you don't put yourself in bad situations. Now, with that being said, the pick down here in the red zone on this end. I'm looking at the end zone where he actually threw the pick, kind of overseeing it where I'm sitting here in the press box. I really feel like you could probably say you can give Bijan a little bit of the credit for that pick, but man, it seemed like it was a predetermined throw, right? And I know a lot of times, like when you come to anticipation and throws and all that stuff, but I think things change when you get down in that red zone because we know that the windows are tighter. We know eyeballs are going to be on 7 when he's coming out of that backfield. So because you had a defensive lineman right there, that knocked it down, and then you had about 2-3 guys like right there in the same little area. Then you saw Bijan trying to see if he can make his way to that little window that the ball was supposed to go through, and it seemed like it was a little bit high. So yeah, I feel like I can't give Ritter all the credit for that one, but I think that it's a mutual agreement that hey, it was on both of them, and I feel like I always gonna lean towards the quarterback anyway in that particular situation because like, hey man, I understand where the ball is supposed to go. You're trying to get it there, but you got to look at what's in front of you, man. Like, pay attention to what's in front of you because that matters a lot more, especially when you're talking about being safe with the football than getting into a certain spot. So for that one, I probably I lean more towards Ritter, but Bijan definitely deserves a little credit. And that's kind of like the roller coaster, right? Because somebody tweeted me during the game, like, man, I don't like riding on this roller coaster. I was like, dude, like, I don't know what ride you're trying to get on, but like this is it, man. You better buckle up, Jack, because the Falcons are in first place right now, and that's all this organization cares about. That's all Arthur Blank cares about. That's all Terry Fondo cares about, and that's damn sure all Arthur Smith cares about at this moment right now. Because like the way they were able to end the game and just turn around and hand the football off, everybody and mama know they about to run the ball, and they were able to do it. Hey man, look, I get the Ritter detractors, but hey, this is it. This is what it is. This is like I don't know if that's optimism or pessimism, but hey, this is it. This is what the Falcons have right now. This is what they're dealing with. These are the cards they've been dealt. And barring an injury, Ritter is going to be here, folks. So let's just kind of sit at every Sunday at 4:00. Y'all come here to the Falcons POSTCAST, and we're just going to evaluate and see how it rolls.
Yeah. Look, yeah, you're gonna ride this roller coaster. This ain't the teacups, right? This ain't.
Nah.
You're just gonna have to make peace with this roller coaster at this point in time.
Man, make peace with it, dog.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with it.
It was another typical Falcons roller coaster where the self-inflicted wounds.
Yes.
We can talk about the decision to go for it on that 4th and 2 in the first quarter instead of kicking the long field goal.
Very cute, by the way.
Very cute. And if the Falcons didn't score the next couple of times, I'm sure we'd be talking a lot more about Arthur Smith in that decision. You had that, as you said, the interception going into halftime in the red zone at the goal line, coming out of the half where they basically were not able to get points. And so that middle 8 that we talk about pretty much weekly with Torrey McElhaney on the Falcons football party did not go their way. And so it felt like if the Falcons had just, taken advantage of those opportunities, like this would have been a cakewalk of a game. This would have been a game where they would have dropped again, we've talked about this before on these postcasts and on these football parties, where it felt like there are so many games this year where the Falcons should have scored 30 or 40 points in the game. This was another one of those games that if this team played a clean football, if this wasn't a roller coaster like it is, they would be dropping 30 pretty consistently, and we wouldn't be having any of these conversations about is Ritter the guy or but as you say, that's the hand that we have been dealt, that this team is going to find a way to shoot themselves in the foot every time, right? They're out there on Wild Wild West, ready to draw, and instead of pulling the gun out, they just shoot themselves in the foot, right? We're pulling a plexical bird.
Like, what I'm saying? Shoot yourself in the groin.
That's what they do. And so, you just got to have the bandages ready, the tourniquet ready, take them to the hospital, because that's what's going to be every Sunday. This was no different. Maybe one day we will get one of these clean games, maybe, but I go into every one of these games being like, they're going to find some way to ruin this. Even at the end of the game, when they're running the ball down the clock, they're up 2 scores. Like, well, the Saints got to score 2 2 more scores in under 2 minutes, well, Falcons will find some way to.
Right. Look, I'm sitting up here like, man, watch they get a bomb right now.
So,
run it in real quick, and then 125, and then now they're kicking the onside. I'm like, okay, get out your head.
That's how it is. It's just a roller coaster. So, if we talk about BetterHelp, right? If you need a mental health break from the Falcons, take that break, guys, because it is going to be this way every single week for this team. You got to either make peace with it, or you can get off the ride. You can just get off the ride and say, I'll come back later when the teacups is available. But that ain't the Atlanta Falcons. So let's open it up to the chat a little bit more, talk a little bit more about this game, talk maybe a couple of other standout players as well. Maybe Caden Ellis getting some revenge against his former team, as well as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons postcast. So the Falcons play a exciting brand of football, but I don't know if it's the level of excitement that we want. But what's also exciting, and it's an exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, not just football, is PrizePicks, right? And now that basketball season is here, you can even combine sports, football, NBA basketball, college basketball with their specials league. It allows you to combine projections with different players. You can combine like Travis Kelce and LeBron James in terms of receptions and 3 points made. That's one way to play it. And so if you have the skills, you can find a way to turn $10 into $250. Who would complain about that? That's exciting, isn't it? Right? And PrizePicks is easy. You just pick 2 or more players. You pick more or less on the projected stats, and the more entries you make, the more money you make, up to 25 times your money. There's quick withdrawals. There's easy gameplay. There's an enormous selection of players and stat types that are going to make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And to play, just go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code in lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. So Jarvis, let's open things up to the chat as you find some content from our watchers or live watchers or live listeners and whatnot. Malin says Ritter is a master facilitator. I don't know if master is the word I would use, but he did distribute the ball pretty well. We got the Drake London connection going in this game, a good start for Drake London, a strong finish for Drake London in this game. We got a little sprinkling of Kyle Pitts and whatnot. We got a sprinkling of Bijan as well. So it wasn't like they were spreading the ball all around the football field like we've seen Ritter do in the past with like 10 plus guys getting the football. But, he did a good job getting the ball to the guys that he needed to get to in this game for this Falcon team to win. Another player, as I mentioned earlier, that I thought stood out in this game, along with Jessie Bates on the defense side of the ball, was Caden Ellis. He had a couple of breakdowns, but he had a tough assignment guarding Alvin Kamara. We've seen more athletic linebackers have problems covering Alvin Kamara in this game, and you saw Caden Ellis, not only do it as a coverage guy, but also as a run defender, right? Nate Lemon's typically been the guy that's been that force against the run, and Nate Lemon had a good day as well today. But I thought Caden Ellis really kind of stepped up when he needed to. He's very familiar with this team, got a little bit of revenge against his team. And you felt like, okay, well, if, he's not necessarily the guy that I would say that's the guy I want covering now in Kamara. But because of, spending 4 years practicing against these guys, like it felt like he knew a little bit to sort of overcome some of that matchup disparity. What were your thoughts on Caden Ellis as well as other standouts in this game?
He was one of the guys that really stood out to me from the jump, right outside of Mr. Third. I ain't gonna call him what you called him earlier. I can go ahead and check the replay on that one. Aaron was on one today, but anyway. But yeah, Caden Ellis, man, I thought he did a really good, solid job. Like I know the athletic ability has been in question with this group of linebackers specifically, but you got to give Ellis a little bit more credit for what credit's due, because there were some plays he made today. I was just like, okay. That's some athletic ability right there. He's not the best, the most athletic, but he is a little bit more athletic than he gets credit for. So I think that, Ellis had a solid game. Another guy who was playing against his former team, David Onyemata, like the way he punched that football out on Derek Carr, man, Like those type of plays that you look for, those type of plays that you want your defense making on a consistent basis. Because even though they didn't recover it, it just kind of goes to show like the mindset of this defense today. And like you said, to go, I will reiterate it again. For those you missed it, 0 for 5 in the red zone today, defense. Like regardless of what was going on the offensive side of the football, whether it be a turnover or 2 picks, whatever, all that stuff. Yeah, like they held them to field goals because that's a really good thing if you're doing that on a consistent basis, regardless of what happens between the 20s. They were continue to just fight and fight and fight and fight, and I think that was a beautiful thing to see, man. So Caden Ellis and David Onyemata, shout out to you guys. Going up against your former team and hey, showing them what it's worth.
It was also nice to see Arnold Epiketti get a sack today, going up against I think a backup that came in the game for like a series for Ryan Ramczyk, and it's like these are the guys you got to beat, man. Like
yes.
like because beating Ryan Ramczyk is a problem. Like that dude's he's really good. He's one of the best right tackles in the league. And then you get one opportunity to get a break from that guy, and Arnold Epiketti went out there and made the play, and I was like, okay, it's nice to see you, AK. It's nice to see you.
For a guy like to be able to do it like that, though, man. Like, and that's the thing that people kill me sometimes when people, when folks say they're evaluating or looking at guys. Like, there's not too many opportunities you're going to get where a guy's supposed to be the guy and they actually do it because it's the NFL, right? Like, guys have good days, guys have bad days. So for, this coming down the stretch in the second half of the season, I said, like, let's see Arnold Epiketti get put in some third and long situations. Like, I don't care about first and second down. Like, I'll let Ryan Nielsen figure that out. Or what is he? Is he a linebacker, a stand-up linebacker? Is he an edge guy? Like, I don't care. Third and long pass situations, I want to see 17 in the game, and for him to come in, and I'm like, he beat him clean. Like, a dude didn't even touch him. And I'm talking about Dip and Rip got up under there, man, and put the quarterback on the ground. Like, yeah, man, that's the type of stuff that you like to see. I even tweeted out the little Will Smith joint when he was on Bad Boys, and now that's how you drive. Like, that's how you rush the doggone passer. Like, that's what you do, man. Like, that's the type of stuff that got me a little fired up today, man, in a good way. Like, so most of the time I'm getting fired up in a bad way, but I'm making peace with it. I'm riding this roller coaster, man. So, and I'm pointing out stuff that a lot of the good stuff. I still point out the bad stuff, but I'm not gonna get upset about it, So, but yeah, man, it was good to see AK out there, team sack leader, AK, like going out there and getting it in, man.
Yeah, definitely. So Jarvis, let's wrap up talking about something that isn't football related that was going on in the stadium. With people watching know, I'm not there at Mercedes Benz Stadium, but you were. So I got my hip hop shirt, my Biggie shirt ready to go on screen. He wasn't there, I'm surprised.
No, he wasn't there.
R.I.P.
Rest in peace.
But let the people know, how did the 50 years of hip hop go, in this game? You kind of alluded to it, didn't get off to the best start in this game.
But man, it was a little slow because, like I had heard that, 12:30, Desmond Ridder's at the podium, got a very nice starter jacket, by the way. It's very solid. I wouldn't mind having that in 3X, sir. I need you to send me that way. But anyway, yeah, man, like it started off slow because I heard that, the performance was supposed to be at 12:30, and then, everybody came out on the field about 12:45-ish. I was like, all right. And then all the rappers, they showed everybody, like it was just, I can't even name all of them. It was everybody who made a song and people liked it in the past 30 years that was from Atlanta, they were there, probably not Future, of course, Andre 3000 wasn't there, the money ain't big enough for him to be there. But, like just to see them out on the field all together. And, I was talking to a friend of mine, who had overheard a couple of things like, hey, certain guys had to be placed in certain spots because certain guys don't mess with guys. And I said, you don't got to tell me who it was. I know Jody Breeze probably don't mess with 80% of the people who were out there on the field. But yeah, when the team started to come out, Tip was he was in front of them. And he had the microphone going about getting ready to perform. His mouth was moving, but nothing was coming out. And then all you just heard was the track playing. I'm just like, I know he wasn't about to be rapping to a track, but so he had the microphone issues, and they still continued for a little bit. But it started to pick up because Bone Crusher performed, at the end of the quarter, and that was great. So and then G's performed at halftime. That was great. So yeah, it picked up after that, but it started off very slow. And I was just like, man, I hope it's not a precursor to what's going to happen in the game today. It was a little bit, but as the game went along, the performances got better, and as the game went along, the Falcons got a little bit better. So yeah, man, it all worked out.
Okay, all right. So hip hop, slow starter, but finishes strong, just like the Atlanta Falcons. We will end it on that note, guys. We always, as usual, appreciate everybody that tunes into these postcasts. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow with Tori McElhaney, Tanitra Batiste, as well as Jarvis and myself for Atlanta football party, talking more about this game. And of course, you can find more insight not only to this game as well as all of Atlanta sports with Jarvis all week long on Locked On Sports Atlanta. And of course, we'll be breaking down this game and more with the Atlanta Falcons all week long on Locked On Falcons. Continue to make us your first listen. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.